5, 16, 19, 21, 33, and 10. Check results. You remember?
Part of Weird Doctor here. It's going to be very football heavy if you're not a fan of football, but so much has been happening in the football realm, and I just can't ignore it. And not necessarily actually about football, so this is more of like a personal topics, more like the people around football than like the games, like analysing players' mistakes or something. But there's just so much weird shit that's like weird in my opinion that's been going on. I'm just like, I gotta talk about this today because this is a Saturday. And when did Chelsea last play? Chelsea played. When did we play? We played in the cup on like a Wednesday or something. And yeah, so this is a Saturday, and in the Wednesday game, I watched that game and I came away from it going, this is one of the worst refereeing performances I have seen in a long time. Just watching it, because there's been other games where like it's a bigger match and a bigger like thing that has happened, like a bigger mistake, but just consistently poor. They didn't do one good thing, the whole game, and that was a cup game, so there was no VAR. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, they make a wrong decision, but you just got to move on. And it reminds you the problem isn't VAR in itself; it's just the people running it who are the same people who don't run it, who just run around usually. So it's going to be dog shit. But I guess you can say with VAR, bad decisions. Without VAR, bad decisions. At least the game flows nicer without it. That's what you can really say. But the sack of VAR now after all these years, it would just feel like the biggest waste of time. So you kind of feel like you're in so deep now, you have to kind of just force it and try and improve it. Otherwise, you've just wasted like 3-4 years of how long we've had it now. But yeah, just so poor. Calling offsides that weren't offside multiple times. Like the worst one, the guy was offside visually, but he was in his own half, so he's therefore not offside. Just so bad overall. Just fouls, just that weren't fouls, and fouls that were like just inconsistent for both sides. I think a little worse for us, but I think just bad overall refereeing. And then today on a higher profile game, obviously Tottenham, Liverpool, and you just look at that game and you go, oh, like Chelsea, we've had some very bad officiated games. Every team would know, like Arsenal will say it, United will say it, Liverpool will all say they've had many games I'll be able to think of where they've been just shambolic. In my mind, most games refereed by Anthony Taylor. I mean, we'll scroll up here. Some awful decisions in a game where we played United where Maguire should have got sent off, but he didn't. Then against Liverpool, some awful decisions in that game. I remember the one where Reece James got sent off. Then scaling up even more, the game against Tottenham beginning of last season, where they score in the last minute. Romero tugs Cucurella's hair. They don't give it. And probably one of the worst I can think of off the top of my head, FA Cup final, Frank Lampard versus Arteta. Mark Goldbridge famously doesn't even complete the stream. Just some of the work, like he just murdered the game for us. Just awful refereeing. Anthony Taylor again. I think that was for Anthony Taylor refereeing performances there. But just crap in general. The one on the weekend was not good in the cup, but we win that game 1-0. And United will have games they'll refer to, and Liverpool have games they can call out and say awful. And today will be one of them. And it's just, oh my God, how are they so bad? How many times can you apologise? It's literally too late to apologise. And how many times can you apologise? In something like this, twice is kind of already too much. It's you can say that's harsh. Like if I'm working like, if I used to work at the cinema. If I'm working at the cinema, right, and I make a mistake, I like pour salted and sweet into a tub that's only meant to be sweet. This was never my job, but I'm just trying to think of something that sounds. And then they say, hey, you don't do that. You do it by checking this. This one's only meant to be sweet. If I then make that same mistake again and I got the sack, realistically, in school they'll tell you would get fired. In school they tell you if you show up late twice you're fired. That's just not true. Like, well, it depends. If you're working like a big office job, then maybe, I don't know, never worked one, but just your standard retail job, not going to get fired, right? So like, you know what I mean? So if you're working like this kind of job, you're late a few times, you're realistically not going to get fired. They're pretty lenient most of the time. If you like you'll have like a couple verbal warnings, maybe a meeting here and there, maybe a last chance given kind of thing. Kind of depends. This popcorn situation, if you did that, you know, if you did it two times, you're going to get the sack. Because guess what? You're working in a cinema job. It's probably pretty quiet in the midweeks. Probably only ever busy if like a big movie's out, which is quite rare. You know, in other words, in better words, you know, it is a low stake environment. But if you're, you know, refereeing, whether on VAR or on the pitch, right, officiating Premier League matches, I would describe that as a high-stake environment. And the type of environment where, you know, very high profile, if you make the same mistake once or twice, twice or three times, yeah, you could get the sack. And that doesn't mean you never referee again, but, you know, you get taken off big games, you go down a level, you know what I mean? You can't consistently be having the same people make the same mistakes and then just apologizing afterwards. There is this whole like ref versus the world mentality. We've got to protect the referees. You know, Jermaine Genius doing his little statement thing like referees need protection. We can't have players crowding the refs. It's unacceptable. And then he goes on Twitter like recently and he's like just slagging off the ref because he got something wrong. It's just a part of it. Like, no one is saying a referee for making a bad decision on a football pitch should get like death threats or like his front room window smashed in. Some people will be saying that, crazy people, but you know, should be getting his windshield screen smashed in. Should be getting, you know, abused because of how they look or like this kind of thing. But if you do something wrong blatantly on a football pitch and someone says the referee's a wanker, he's shit at his job, guess what, mate? That's part of the job. It's fine. Same way if a football player does something shit, they get called shit. You know, no one's saying a referee should get called an ugly bald prick whose mother doesn't love him because he does the decision wrong. Okay, maybe that's too far. But if you blatantly give a red card that's not, or like you're just being shit at your job. You know, the whole not Mike Ashley, what's his name? Mike Dean, referee. He was like, I didn't want to tell Anthony Taylor to go look at it because I thought he was already having a hard game. I didn't want him to like, you know, have to look at it and make a hard decision and get more abuse being poured on him and piled on him and stuff. It's just him back. This is the kind of thing, you know, it's this whole protect the ref type stuff. You can feel a defender come and give you the roughest challenge when you're on a break and think that should be a yellow card. You go to the ref in the heat of the moment, that should be yellow, and then you get booked for it because that's apparently antagonizing the ref. Like, maybe it's not ideal that players ask the ref for a yellow card. There's pitfalls of every job. The number one thing, right, about football that we need to be improved in isn't the protection of referees. You know, that's the one thing that at the moment it feels like is the one thing they're trying to change about the sport is all these different rules to protect the refs. When the refs can't even get the simplest of decisions right, guy blatantly onside, they didn't even put the lines in, the whole thing that they're sitting there to do. The first red card, I'm not going to call referees out for that one because it's kind of I don't think it's a red card for the same reason I wouldn't give the Gusto one a red card last week, but these seem to sometimes get given. This is the problem, it's inconsistent. So you got that one, it's like a 50-50 kind of thing because you never know with these refs. You then get a blatant thing with the offside. The first yellow card for Jota, I think, is ridiculous. Like, yeah, maybe their knees touch in there somewhere, but like, it's just silly. And I think as a referee, if you know the first yellow card you gave was actually probably a little bit harsh, the second one you maybe let slide, even though the second one is more of a yellow than the first, because ultimately, accumulatively, you're sending someone off who doesn't deserve to be sent off in a game where they've already had a player sent off who maybe also didn't deserve to get sent off. It's just like, are you not even thinking? It's insane. Just so many bad decisions, and they'll come out and they already have, and they'll be like, we got that wrong. They'll apologise to the club, but it's like I said, it's a high stake job. And you can't expect to go around, make bad decisions, and then just have this whole chip on your shoulder, smug about it. No one's allowed to criticize us or call us shit because you got to protect us and we're the referees and we'll apologize. But ultimately, what's the sorry gonna do? No one really cares because if it's like a Liverpool or someone like that, they're a big side. But ultimately, your shit decisions, high stakes job, whatever job, eventually, and probably already have and will inevitably lose people their jobs, managers. Mainly managers, but maybe players if you want to look at it as a butterfly effect type thing. It's going to get people relegated, lose people their jobs in that sense. As if a club goes down, that's not even just losing sort of people their jobs in terms of like managers and players, or even just other general staff around the club. It's gonna be the difference between people winning trophies, not winning trophies. Huge sums of money, not sums of money. If you think about on the level of like Luton, right, getting into this club, getting into this league, right, and then some of their poor decision making, and they just put out a letter saying sorry, but back down to the Championship after, say they was just about to stay up, and that would have been like a huge David versus Goliath kind of feat, or I'm just trying to think of something off the top of my head, but it's just crap, and it's so consistently crap, and the referees always made poor decisions. If they get that wrong without VAR, you look at it and go, oh, okay, well, it's onside. It's what we used to do and be like, oh, it's onside. Well, that's a shame. You're shit, ref. You don't know what you're doing. And then you kind of go and you have I'm acting like this is what I would do, but this is what the footballing world would do. And then you go have a drink afterwards and you're like, oh yeah, the fucking ref was shit, wasn't it? Well, we move on, Goes around, comes around, fucking shit. Spurs are shit. The ref, Fergie's right, the rest, and you kind of just move about, right? It's just a part of it, and because ultimately you're watching it in the pace of the game. It's hard to be a linesman in the pace of the game, watch it and get everyone exactly right. You go, okay, where it's unforgivable, so you literally have something put in place where you can check that and should negate all of that all of the time, and it almost never always does. That's when you now are raging at these people, because it's like before you made decisions, you'd be annoyed about it, but it's like, okay, whatever. Now it's like there is almost no excuse, and yet it feels like decisions are just as prevalent, if not more prevalent with VAR. Probably actually definitely more, like 50% more. It's just crazy. That actually reminded me of something when I was speaking earlier. You kind of just let it go, benefit the doubt, you move on. Yeah, and then if like when they say protect refs, they don't want like, they're going to start banning, how you can't like chant certain things, obviously in the stands, you can't like chant, and there you probably was certain chants that were like anti-Semitic, like, or like homophobic, like there's a lot of chants about Chelsea like that, or like chants about certain players because they have racial undertones or whatever, right? You can't make chants of that. They're eventually going to be like, you can't make chants, you can't chant like, referee, you're a wanker, referee, you're a wanker. It's like, that's just ridiculous. It's just a part of the game. Like, you might not like that while you're on the pitch refereeing, that they're calling you a wanker because they think you're crap at refereeing, and it's going to happen every game because one set of fans are going to do it to you. But it's like every player is receiving the same thing. Like, it's just part of the game. Like, it's just so stupid. It's so stupid. And it's just so funny that this is the number one thing that they're trying to fix about football, when there's so many other things that they could try and be fixed. But no, number one thing is protect the referees. It's crazy. Havertz scored outside of referees. Havertz scored a goal. Shit guy finally scored meme. Yeah, obviously ex-Chelsea. It's crazy what like your opinion on someone is the second they leave your club, because I was backing him until the end pretty much, but then once he went to Arsenal and it was like photos and it was like Kepa's wedding, I think they just escaped Alcatraz, him and like Kovacic and Jorginho, when half of them was, well, all of them pretty much was so shit. Like Kovacic towards the end was so shit, Jorginho was shit on and off a lot, and they had great moments for us, obviously. Champions League was great, Havertz goal. That's why I backed them all. But then obviously this one goes Arsenal, like London rival. Arsenal Tottenham is a real big no. And it's like he hasn't been good there. And everyone, you get these stat nerds trying to like say, no, he has because he creates pockets. And Arteta's actually a genius. He's been brought in for this, and 60 million actually isn't too much. And it's like, I don't have an issue with them giving him the penalty to boost confidence. Like, they're 2-0 up, they got a second penalty. They didn't give him the first one, so I think it's fine. They give him the second one after already being 2-0 up. They think the game's wrapped. Give him the penalty for confidence. It's a risky one because if you miss it, then they're definitely in the mud. I feel like we tried to do that once with like Falcao maybe, or like maybe it was Pato, but I don't remember. I felt like it was someone like that. We tried giving them a penalty once, and they missed that as well. It's just like, oh, we're really in the mud. Like, I'd want Chelsea the same. If he was 2-0 up, maybe not us actually, because we really need to secure wins at this point. But let's say we was 4-0 up against Fulham, because we really need this right now. So it has to definitely be safe against Fulham on Monday, and then we get a penalty. I'd be like, yeah, give it Mudryk. I don't have anything wrong with the way they celebrated with Havertz. Everyone's jumping on top of him like he's Vic-Star, giving him, oh, he did it, he scored, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like he's some Make-A-Wish kid, right? That's how people are behaving on Twitter, by the way. Like, oh my God, eyes watering emoji, my heart crack, the way they behave, like, all this kind of shit. I don't even have a problem with that. But then when Arsenal gave him man of the match, like, okay, now you're really just going to, like, let's not just like, well, we're going to give him the Puskas award for it as well. Just like, really, you gave him the goal. The boys will go around it. He's not a Make-A-Wish, like, really just trying to, like, oh, it's his little day out, let's make him perfect for him. Like, did they whisper in the air and tell the keeper to dive the other way as well, like a 4-year-old, and then they go on your knees and goal, and they take it, and you go, whoa, whoa, and you just jump out of the way of the ball. Like, it's ridiculous, the treatment of Havertz. Like, I would have been fine getting the penalty if I was in that situation, the way the teammates jump on you. It's nice, yeah, it is kind of wholesome. But then if I saw they gave me man of the match, like, okay, I'd be like, oh, don't do that. You've just made that. I don't want to be getting handouts in that way. That just feels too far. But no, Havertz has been crap. I've been seeing the games. I've been like, we watched him play football for a year, and what they're trying to describe and what his role could be at Arsenal. No, he won't be this striker the way you was trying to force it because you don't have a striker and this and that. We know that's not his best bit of his game, even though being a goal-scoring midfielder is what he made his name off of in Germany. Now we're trying to pretend like that's not what his game is. Okay, no, we wanted to do this and like interplay, connect the play in the midfield and neat little passes and this and that, and create space by dropping and this and that, right? We've seen him do that in a Chelsea shirt. Like, this is what I can't stand, right? Because people watch like 6-7 Chelsea games a season, they think they get the whole picture. Like, we've seen Havertz play a bunch of different roles. We've seen Havertz, and he can be neat and tidy on the ball. But ultimately, over the course of the season, Arsenal fans will see that he's not consistent at that enough. And, like, he can be neat and tidy on the ball, but he's not £60 million neat and tidy on the ball. And normally he's already been getting dropped a little bit for Vieira. Is that his name? See, I don't even know this player that well he's getting dropped for, or know much about him, his profile, because he goes missing too much as well. And he's languid, and like it's all well and good being like this languid player who kind of strolls about, has kind of got this like blasé attitude when they're Berbatov, then it's cool. But when they're not in the game, then it's annoying. And, that will be seen. I don't really know. And it's one of those things, the league might just not be suited to his style. He'll probably, if he went back to Germany, he'd probably smash it and get 20 goals a season. The more and more, as time goes by, I look at the Bundesliga and just think, it's not a great league. It's not a great league. Like, I don't even know how much better than it is than the French league. I would go as far to say now. Like, I think it is Premier League. I would then go. I think I don't know. I think I would then want to go. Well, it's either the Italian or the Spanish. Maybe I'm biased because there's just a lot of ex-Chelsea players balling out AC Milan right now, and I've been watching a few of them games. But they've got like Napoli and Inter, and Roma hasn't had a good start this season. They've had a Chelsea kind of start. I think there are results the exact same: 1 win, 3 losses and 2 draws. But I think they've got more teams. It's like a more competitive league. It feels like Juventus. How even you forget that, than it is someone like the Spanish league. The Spanish league is still like the same few teams. It's always like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and then occasionally Atletico. Whereas I feel like with Serie A, it can interchange. I would go Serie A, then Spain, then like Germany or France. Like, I mean, in the rankings, France isn't even top 5. They put them like 7th below the Dutch league and that. Which I'll be honest, I have no idea how it goes. I watched it a bit when Mason Mount was having that loan at Vitesse, but you know, like there's just too many players who can't. And I hope Nkunku's not one of these, but there is too many players who come from the Bundesliga, and they just. And it might not even be that the Bundesliga is a bad league, but just like maybe the skills from the like Spanish league maybe are more transferable to the Premier League or like the Italian league. Maybe the Bundesliga is just the furthest away in styles or speed or whatever to the Premier League, where it's less adaptable because it happens so much. You see these people and you watch the highlights and you're like, whoa. And they get here and it's just like they are not the same at all. And it's not even like it shows up in glimpses even. It's just sort of like they're gone. But yeah, anyway. That's all. Just had to get that out. It had to get all the football chatter out in one thing so it doesn't bleed into others. But it's been on the mind. It's been interesting me. So yeah, Dankeschön. This was, I don't know, number 250 maybe. See, and also I've been like 150 behind on Spotify getting them up, and I spent like the whole of yesterday uploading like 100 in a row. So that I didn't need to tell you that, but I did do that, and it was very laborious. So I've got to do the other 50 now. Thank you. Au revoir.
Here with the kids, and I've got 3 kids, and the geezer was probably on like maximum 20 bags a year. Like the most boring bloke you'd ever meet. Like,